Mrs. Toasty the sheep lives in fluffy gardens. Mrs. Toasty lives here, at 2 Swelterville Bay, to be precise. Sheep have lovely coats of wool to keep them warm in the cold weather. Mrs. Toasty's wool coat is even thicker than most, so she's always toasty warm. That would be nice, wouldn't it? To have a coat that kept you toasty warm? Not for poor Mrs. Toasty. You see, Swelterville Bay, where Mrs. Toasty lives, is the hottest place in fluffy gardens, especially in summer. So hot that if you went to visit, you would have to eat your ice cream really fast, or it would melt and drip all over your fingers, making them taste delicious but feel terribly sticky. Nobody likes sticky fingers. So poor Mrs. Toasty, with her thick wool coat, is always too hot. Our story begins early one hot summer morning. Mrs. Toasty was feeling very sorry for herself and was trying to cool down. She sat in front of a big fan which blew cold air into her face, and she had a big drink of orange with lots and lots of ice. So much ice that there was barely any room for orange. "I'm still far too hot," she said to herself. "I wish I didn't have such a thick wool coat." Drinking her big drink of orange with lots and lots of ice gave Mrs. Toasty an idea. She poured the orange drink into a basin, ice and all. Then Mrs. Toasty climbed into the basin and sat right inside. Sitting in the basin of ice kept Mrs. Toasty cool for a few minutes. But then the ice melted and the drink went warm. "Oh, I'm still far too hot," she said to herself. "I do wish I didn't have such a thick wool coat." Mrs. Toasty tried many ways to keep cool that day. Opening windows, eating ice, running the cold tap. She even sat in a bowl of cold jelly. No matter what Mrs. Toasty did, she was still too hot. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was a little penguin with a big parcel. "Delivery for Mrs. Toasty the sheep," announced the penguin, and gave Mrs. Toasty the parcel. "I wonder what this could be," thought Mrs. Toasty as she prodded the parcel. It was very squishy. Inside, Mrs. Toasty pulled on the string. The squishy parcel opened, and the first thing she saw was a card with a message on it. It read, "Please come and visit me." It was signed, "With love, Aunt Snug." "P.S.," it went on, "You'll need this." Mrs. Toasty looked into the parcel to see what the "this" was. "Oh, disaster," said Mrs. Toasty. "This is the last thing I need." It was a big, thick, red woolly jumper. Mrs. Toasty was disappointed, but it had been very nice of her Aunt Snug to send her a gift. She soon cheered up at the thought of visiting Aunt Snug. Mrs. Toasty had never been to visit her aunt before, and going to visit new places can be very exciting. Before long, Mrs. Toasty was on her way to Aunt Snug's house. Aunt Snug lived very far away, so Mrs. Toasty had to take a train and then a bus. That is far. Aunt Snug lived by Frosty Mountains, which is very different to Swelterville Bay. Here, it was always snowing, it was always cold, and there were never any hot mornings. When most people arrive, they think to themselves, "Brrr, it's terribly cold here, too cold for me." Most people get back on the bus and go home where it's warm. Not Mrs. Toasty. Mrs. Toasty got off the bus, looked around and thought, "What a lovely place!" The snow made everything look all sparkly and very pretty. That week, Mrs. Toasty had a wonderful time. Aunt Snog brought Mrs. Toasty to try all of the things she loved to do in frosty mountains. They went skiing. They built snowmen. They even went ice skating. Mrs. Toasty had so much fun. She even bumped into Tooty the elephant, who was there for a snowboarding tournament. "It's very pretty here," said Tooty the elephant to Mrs. Toasty. "But it's terribly cold, isn't it?" "I wouldn't know," answered Mrs. Toasty. "You see, I have such a thick wool coat." Tooty looked very surprised indeed. So did Mrs. Toasty. For the first time that summer, Mrs. Toasty wasn't too hot. She was just right. Right then, Mrs. Toasty made a decision. She would visit more often. So now, every summer, Mrs. Toasty takes a train and then a bus to go and visit Aunt Snog at Frosty Mountains. At Aunt Snog's house, Mrs. Toasty is never too hot and never feels sorry for herself. She never has to sit in a basin of ice or even a bowl of jelly. In fact, sometimes, on very cold mornings, you can even see Mrs. Toasty out and about wearing a big, beamy smile and a big, thick, red, woolly jumper.